Hey, Laura J here, holding the Mythic Tarot deck, a new approach to the tarot cards. And so, because I want to bust any illusions you might have, here at Woodlawn, we invite artists to create lives you love living. So, that means going on a journey. And he ain't in a hurry. Let's actually start with the Fool, who is the first major arcana, which I'm going to read to you the Mythic Arcana, or the Mythic Tarot. We have attempted to restore some of the original simplicity and accessibility of the tarot cards by redesigning the deck in accord with the images of the Greek gods, so beloved by Renaissance artists and writers, and which form the cultural underpinning of Western life. The Greek gods are not the exclusive property of any particular esoteric school, religious doctrine, or spiritual path, a moral yet containing profound moral truths. They predate and permeate our modern Judeo-Christian religious symbols, as well as the art and literature of the whole of Western culture, and they remain the most fundamental and precise images to describe the many-sided and multicolored workings of the human psyche. They are symbols of raw nature, our own raw human nature, with its deep ambivalence of body and spirit and its mutually contradictory drives towards self-realization and unconsciousness. Our understanding of our own ambivalence has only recently begun to be restored to its ancient scope by modern depth psychology, which inevitably has had to return to the source, the pagan gods, for its understanding of human behavior. Thus, in both book and cards, we have adhered to the traditional meanings of the cards, while at the same time resurrecting the old gods who have been buried beneath centuries of embellishment. What then is myth? Our dictionaries offer several different definitions. One is a myth. One is that myth is an untrue story, a perspective which is no doubt valid in one sense but sadly inept in another. Certainly no archaeologist has ever found the bones of Oedipus or Hercules, but what may be untrue in concrete terms may be true in an inner level, as well as a type but what may be untrue in concrete terms may be true on an inner level as a type of subjective experience. The word myth can also imply a scheme or plan, and it is this meaning which we must consider when we look at the tarot cards. Mythic images are really spontaneous pictures sprung from the human imagination, which describe in poetic language essential human experiences and essential human patterns of development. Psychology now uses the term archetypal to describe these patterns. Archetypal means a pattern which is universal and existent in all people in all cultures at all periods of time. Birth, for example, is an archetypal experience. This is obviously true on a concrete level. We have all, at one time or another, been born. But it is also a psychological experience of an archetypal kind, because every time we begin something new or enter a new phase of a life, there is a sense of birth, and birth also implies other subjective states, because being born means leaving the comforting and serene waters of the maternal womb, whether this is on a physical level or a psychological one. Death is also an archetypal experience. We will all one day die. But death, likewise, is psychological, because life changes, and we ourselves change, and each time there is an ending of any kind, a separation, or the end of a phase of life, there is a sense of death. Puberty, the passage from childhood into manhood or womanhood, is also archetypal. We all pass through the profound physical and emotional stages of puberty between around 12 and 15 years of age. But we may also make this passage many times during life, on an inner subjective level, each time we move from an essentially childish and naive way of viewing things to a full embracing of life which penetrates and deepens us. For this reason, a myth such as the abduction of the maiden Persephone from her mother by the underworld god Hades is both an image of the process of puberty with its terrifying separation from the comfortable parental world and its invasion of unknown life, and an image of a psychological experience which can occur whenever we have been clinging to naive, maiden-like views of life and are forced by experience to discover unknown depths in life and in ourselves. Myth portrays archetypal patterns in human life through pictures and stories. Greek myth is a sophisticated and perennially alive imagination description. Greek myth is a sophisticated and perennially alive imaginative description of what we are made of inside. This is what seized the mind of the Renaissance, and it is what peeps from behind the often mystifying imagery of the tarot cards, which transcend the changes in culture and consciousness of the last 4 millennia and restore us, like the old memory systems, to a sense of connectedness with ancient and eternal designs. We can now see that there are really two avenues by which to approach the tarot cards. We can take the historical approach, which is essentially factual, or we can take the psychological approach, which is essentially archetypal. With the first, we can explain, or at least try to explain, the origins and initial intentions of the cards. But the second opens up the issue of more eternal fascination, despite the fact that we are more scientifically knowledgeable and know now better. In the imaginal world of the psyche, experiences are not connected by casualty, but by meaning. Patterns other than the concrete ones are at work within us, and unless we have some understanding of the psyche, the strange coincidences of the tarot cards can seem frightening or disturbing. Connections between events in outer life and the images of the tarot cards are not because the cards are magical, but because there is a shared meaning. This is what we mean by birth, death, and puberty being inner as well as outer experiences. We meet these experiences again and again on different levels at different times in life, and thus there is a tarot card which will describe each of them, and which will somehow, mysteriously, appear without apparent cause in a spread of cards at the moment when we are inwardly experiencing such an archetypal event. Thus, the way in which the tarot works, in a predictive sense, is as a kind of mirror of the psyche. The archetypal nature of the images strikes hidden, unknown chords in the card reader, and reflects hitherto unknown knowledge or insight in relation to the client's situation, thus apparently revealing things which could not possibly, in any rational way, be discoverable. This is why clairvoyant or psychic powers are not a prerequisite for a sensitive reader, but rather an awareness of the archetypal patterns or currents at work in life reflected by the images on the cards. We may now turn to the cards themselves to understand better the grand archetypal design, story, or myth which is portrayed in their ancient images. So, that was the first part of the Mythic Tarot, a new approach to the tarot cards by Juliet Sharman Burke and Liz Green. And if you would like me to actually narrate this whole series, or this whole book, then I would be willing to actually do so one per day. I could do that very easily, and I would love to. So I'm going to start that as soon as I have 10 people that say you are in, and then I will start posting one card explanation per day. And let that be the way we begin the new podcast that I'm launching as well. That's not part of the podcast, but it's going to be a benefit for promoting the podcast that I will actually be getting to this afternoon, I say at 10:10 right then. So, the card that I flipped to is the Ten of Cups, which is a very abundant of emotions and waters card with a Six of Swords, which means that the swords are there, but you are actually moving in the same direction as it, with them in your boat, which I don't know that is the best place for you to keep them, depending on how they're propped up there. Um, but I'm gonna just put that into the deck. Oh, right, I did before the Ace of Swords, so that's perfect because that's basically where you started, and then when you're going into it, and then when you're coming away from it. So that's your ace and your six, the progression with them. I do really enjoy tarot readings, so I'm going to make this into something. I said that at 11:11 without meaning to. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say, let's get back this another day. Leave a comment.